Is anyone out there? Hello. Hey, someone's there. Hello. Welcome to the live show for Terra Nullius by Claire G. Coleman. Yay!
Yay.
We really need like streamers or something.
We're so excited. Yes, welcome. There is, according to my little counter thingy, there is only one person here, so I feel like maybe we should wait a minute.
But that one person is Erin.
No, one person is Erin.
Erin.
Erin. Hello. Yes, but I thought maybe we should give everyone a minute to pop in because there was at least one more person who read the book. So yes, hoping that more people will jump in if they are around. Oh, did you like the book, Zola?
It blew her mind.
Excellent.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Yeah, like that.
Blew your mind like that?
It's all about.
It's a beautiful song. So yeah, I guess we can start out by, like I said, we might give everyone a couple of minutes to come over. So
do we want to like run through our reads for the next few months and then we can do that at the end as well?
That's a good idea.
I have one of them here.
Woohoo! Which one?
I didn't even think to bring one. No. This one I have.
Yeah. I have sugar as well, but I have this one back here already, so it was like, I'm just going to put it there in case we talk about it and I can show it. But there we are.
It's such a pretty cover.
It is. Really pretty. Mine's a library book, so it's a bit glary, but it's still gorgeous.
Yes, it is very pretty. So that's for September.
That is for September.
And then in October, we'll be reading The Killing Code by Elimani.
Which isn't out yet.
Which isn't out yet, which I actually somehow didn't realise. I don't know how I had not realised that, but I went to the bookstore the other day and I tried to ask for it and they were like, it's not come out yet, but you can pre-order it. I was like, okay, yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ordered sugar at the same time.
Nice. I know that, I think it was Helen said that sugar isn't available in the UK yet.
Okay.
So I might be sneaky there and send her a copy. Yeah. But otherwise I think it's pretty, I mean it is Australian, so it's pretty widely available here. From what I can see. Yeah.
So if you've just popped over, we haven't quite started talking about Terra Nullius yet. We were just running through what the next few books we're going to read are. So Vespertine for September, the Killing Code for October, Sugar by
Colleen Nugent.
Nugent, that's right.
Yep.
For November. And then we thought we would read the second book in the Witch King.
Yes. Or for some of us, also reading the first one.
And for some of us, also reading the first one. Yes. Last to read, more like first to read. I know, right? We have a pre-order in here. What's going on?
I know.
We should change our name to First to Read Club, except that that's only
that's the only thing that we're going to read first.
It is not going to happen very often.
Yeah. I feel like for the next, from January on as well, we might take some more suggestions.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because with these ones we just picked, we were like, we want to do these ones. No one gets to say. But yeah.
Definitely, I think that would be great. Okay, I guess I am putting a "We are live, come say hi" on Twitter. And I might do the same on Instagram. Okay. I did not do it on Instagram. I was like, oh, you know what? I posted about that not that long ago. We are the trendsetters.
Yes.
Exactly.
This one time.
I'm just amazed that Erin is still online. Like, she has been
I
online
know.
so much this weekend.
How are you?
How are
holding
you
up?
alive?
Wait, not that we don't want to have you here. We very much appreciate it. But why are
Yeah.
you here? Why are you not in bed?
Like how? I wish I had your stamina.
Right? I've not done very much of anything today, and I'm like,
Yeah.
in my defense, though, it's because I didn't sleep super well last night or the night before.
Yeah.
I'm in bed because I may be slightly dead. Yeah, that's fair.
Well, thank you for joining us anyway.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very
I
much.
would not have that same dedication.
Me neither.
Although I
I'd be
am
like,
looking
yeah,
forward to
sorry,
the
guys.
books.
Yeah. As we've seen before, where we've been like, are you tired? Are you sure you want to go on tonight?
Yep, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's nearly 10 past, so I suppose we should probably dive into the reason we're all here, which is this book. So I kind of feel like we did a fair bit of gushing over this book in the Discord. No.
You're the sweetest.
Yeah. Have you read it, Lana?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I couldn't remember
I
because
picked it up. I stopped at like the end of chapter 8, and I was like, because you guys were all like chapter 10, and I was like, okay, I need to stop. I need to give myself some time and some space, because once chapter 10 hits, I probably won't put it down. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you guys have seen in my Instagram, and I've told both of you anyway, but as everyone else here has seen in my Instagram, I tab the crap out of this, and like I don't tab like literally ever. But yeah, this
Are they
this
your
book.
cute tabs?
Oh yeah, these are
Yeah. I love
little
them.
cats, and like they have little, speech bubbles, so you can write stuff in there.
Yeah.
They're super cute. Even before I figured out that it was what was going on, I was like, oh my god, I have to tab this. So the first one that I turned to is the one that says, so it's talking about Jackie being taken from his people and put in the mission. There he was to receive an education, and he did, if being beaten, locked up, punished, mistreated, and controlled, and then finally, when broken, trained to be a servant was an education. And I was just like, oh my god. That's just...
I feel like that's pretty much like if we were to like describe this book in 3 words, oh my god, is it?
Yeah.
Like,
that's, yeah.
I'm hoping Erin's finished it.
I think, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Because I don't want to say anything and then completely ruin it.
That's true. No, I'm pretty sure that she finished it.
I think so. I imagine that's why you're here.
Yes. Let me just double check in the Discord, although she's probably telling us. Oh, yep. She has finished it. Good. So the other day, or yesterday, when I was doing my Graceling live show, I was like, we could do 3 stars and a wish. my usual fallback.
Yeah.
Do we want to do something like that, like your favorite parts, and then if there was anything you thought could have been improved, or you wanted to see more of, or something?
Yeah.
Or should we just gush about how amazing?
My wish would be completely unrealistic and would have made the book shit, but just for like my sense of closure, I would have liked it to end in a happy ending.
Yeah.
That was like the
Yeah.
only thing. I was
Yeah.
like, this is amazing, and I think it was more amazing and more impactful because it didn't.
Yeah.
I guess that's jumping to the end, but anyhow, that was like the only thing.
Yeah, it was definitely a book that once I finished it, I was like, wow, I feel really depressed now.
Yeah.
like I just had to like really sit there with it and be like, yeah, like that's it. You know,
I couldn't
there's
pick up
no
a
more.
book for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I tried because I'm like, yes, I need a palate cleanser. I tried to pick up a romance. No, I got 2 pages in. I was like, this just isn't working. It's not like words are not computing. I picked up a sci-fi. Nope, didn't work. Picked up what did I? I think I stayed away from fantasy. I'm a bit fantasied out. But yeah, I was just like, I couldn't read anything for 2 days. And then I picked up like a natural history of dragons, and I was like, okay, I can get into this after 2 days of not reading, which is like never happens.
I didn't.
No, me neither.
I didn't pick up anything at all.
Neither.
But also, like,
yeah,
I'm not.
I didn't notice that at all. The only thing
I'm not that kind of reader, though. Like, I
usually am.
I like to just be taken on a journey,
and
like, but at the same time, I was kind of like waiting for like, you know, like everyone was saying chapter 10 is amazing and all this kind of stuff, and I was trying to kind of guess what would happen. Of like, you know, I'm thinking like, oh my god, like, is Jackie gonna die? And then like this whole rest of the book is going to be about something completely different. But I wouldn't have guessed that.
No.
Like, that was so far down the list.
I'm so glad that like I didn't look at anything, and it wasn't until you guys read chapter 10 that I was like, oh shit, I need to get this book. And so I got it from the library. Just on audio and ebook, and like other than you guys saying, oh my god, chapter 10, I knew absolutely nothing about this book. Like from the title I was like, sci-fi ish, and then I was just like, when I started reading I was just like, maybe it's like something further down and it's going to be First Contact and it's like an alternate reality kind of thing.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was going to be that, of like an alternate Australian history.
Yeah, but then I was just like hung up on like the like colonization, like the similarities, and I was just like, oh, this hits very close to home. This is hard to read.
Yeah,
but like in a good way.
Yeah, I kept getting really like putting it down and being like, oh my god, like just being so angry about like everything, and just being like, oh my god, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with us? Like, what the hell? I knew that it was, the only thing I knew about it, apart from like what's on the back, which is virtually nothing, was that it was a sci-fi. Like, I heard that it was sci-fi, but the name, I would have thought the name didn't give sci-fi to me, because that.
Yeah, I just sort of, because that's the term that was used, right? Terra Nullius? Yeah, I just was like, that's our history. Like,
yeah, and then when you start reading it, it reads like, I thought it was historical fiction. The only thing, I didn't see the praying, although I should have, now that Erin's mentioned it, I should have spotted it, because yeah, like they wouldn't have been praying if it was our history. But the only thing that I noticed was throwing me was they had a couple of mentions. I think they mentioned a car and then they mentioned some kind of technology that I was like, well, hang on, this set. But because like right up until the 1960s,
that's
is
like I
when,
was kind of thinking that maybe it was like the 50s sort of thing.
like it's horribly, unforgivably, like it's part of our recent history. Like the stolen generation were like, there are people alive today that were a part of the stolen generation, like, you know. So it's like, this is still potentially believable. Upsettingly, this could have been happening in the 50s.
It's like kind of felt like it was like timeless, of kind of like, you know, even though it's, you know, that sort of thing doesn't just end with the end of the stolen generation. Like it keeps going. It's not like, oh, everything stopped.
And the generational trauma as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't just affect the people that were actually directly of that generation and a member of that generation. You know, it obviously affects like their children and their children's children and just everyone. So I anticipated that there would be something because I knew it was speculative because it shows up on recommendations for First Nations spec fic.
I've seen that, but reading it, I was like, oh, I don't know whether that's actually going to come in. Like, you know, the first like 9 chapters, you're just like, I knew that, and I was just like, but I don't really see anything.
I kept waiting for the sci-fi.
I've forgotten about it. Yeah,
but I did not see the sci-fi that happening. Like it's just so masterfully written that like, and unfortunately, because it's so close to reality.
Yeah, that's the part of it though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just don't question it because you're like, well, I know that this happened.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
Well, that didn't happen.
Hang on.
Because as a foreigner, I don't know. Like, obviously I know like a very brief version of Australian history. We don't get taught, like, I didn't know about a stolen generation until I moved here. Like, we don't get taught anything about Australian history because ours is so similar, I think. But we had it better, I think. So me, like, from what I've learned in the 10 years that I've been here, plus like my own, like me coming from a colonized culture, I was like, because I usually like avoid reading that shit. Like if there's anything to do with like Māori or Indigenous or minority, like all of that sort of stuff, I avoid it because it's just too close to home. And like my grandparents are in a generation that was like shit was still happening. So I avoid that like the plague. So when I was reading it, and I know that I messaged you guys and I was just like, this is like powerful, but it's also like, whoa. It was so well written. So well written. That even though I was just like, oh my heart, I was still just like, I have to keep reading to know what happens. Like the characterization, everything was just done so well. I was so invested.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, there'd be little things and then I'd get swept up and forget about those I noticed until there was something else again and again. Yeah, it is just so well written that you just kind of get swept up in what's going on. And
but you don't even really notice.
Yeah, like those little Easter eggs that are there, you don't, because but also
at the time you're like, oh, that's weird, and then you're like, oh, but you know, the writing is so engaging that you kind of forget about it a few pages later.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that I think one other thing I think that stuck out to me was when it was so close to chapter, I think it must have been in chapter 9, when Johnny Starr was with his gang, and then something was said about grey skin. And but even then, like, that's like, even then, like, people back in the day, I mean, even today, like, they don't, they describe different skin color in like so many different ways that aren't necessarily very appropriate or very nice. It's like, well, yeah, that could, like, maybe people do, like, maybe they would describe that people that way. But I was still a bit like, that was just odd description. Like, I just found it a strange.
I thought that too, but I've also heard people being described as grey skinned. So I was just like, I didn't like ring until later, and I was just like, oh.
Yeah, like that moment where everything becomes clear. It's just like, oh, it makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
Like all these things that you've just kind of like filed away that you haven't really thought about, and you're just like, oh, this whole time, that's why it's kind of felt so unsettling, and like something's not quite adding up.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of hard to talk about because there's so much in it. Like it's kind of like she's done such an amazing job. It's kind of like, I don't want to talk about, like when people like when you go to a karaoke bar and people want to like put on Adele and you're like, I'm not going to try and do that. Like, what? I can't even go there.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know what to say about this amazing book. Like, hi Paige, that's okay. I just watched a really distressing documentary on SBS in the hospital waiting room that paralleled some of the stuff in the early chapters. So it felt extra, wow, that would have felt extra gut punchy. Paige, we've just been talking about the first 9 chapters and talking about whether there was anything that made any of us kind of go, hang on, what's going on here? Erin, I think, was the one that was the most
honestly though, that checks out. Like,
absolutely.
I feel like if any of us were going to notice, it probably was going to be
It was going to be
Erin. Yeah, Paige has said nope. We all 3 of us were kind of,
again, that checks out, really.
That checks out as well. We were just kind of swept up in what was going on. I was just getting, like, I was reading it and being like, oh my god, this is amazing, but also kind of like, also angry, but also kind of ashamed.
I think that was why it kind of, I didn't pick up on it, was because I felt so angry about everything and so sad that I probably missed actual hints, because I was just like, oh, I hate them all, and
it felt like a redirection. Like, in hindsight, I was just like, I feel like I just got redirected to fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
I got manipulated into being angry.
Yeah. And then just like missing the signs completely when they were all there. But it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just so masterfully done. I actually brought her most recent book when I was, last weekend. Rowan wanted to go to the bookstore because he wanted to buy some books for his niece and nephew. And he was like, you're not having a great weekend. You should come to the bookstore. I was like, okay. And then I saw it there and I'm like, I'm going to buy this book from this person that just blew my mind and see if she can do it again.
Yeah, I really want all of hers now. I know she has 2 others, right? 2 other fictions.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then she's written a non-fiction one as well that's been on my it's been in my Amazon cart for 3 years.
I
think
you should get it.
I think it's called Lies, Damned Lies, I want to say.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's got a really vibrant, it's a bright yellow cover.
I think
in a second.
I think I might vaguely know which one you mean.
Oh
yeah.
You cannot see that at all. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a hard one to miss because it's nice and
Yeah, everyone's going to
Aaron. Let's get angry about that too.
You can just suggest it for the last to read book club.
Yeah, February read.
Let's all get angry again.
Yeah.
Let's all have Claire G. Coleman make us angry again.
But yeah, I really want to read. Is it Enclave?
Enclave, yeah. Or Enclave, yeah. That's the one that I bought the other day.
I've absolutely, again, I feel like her books are going to be ones that you just go into purposefully not knowing anything.
Definitely. Erin's out for that.
Awesome.
So I don't really know 100% what to say, but
well, I mean, should we just talk about chapter 10?
Let's just talk about chapter 10.
Both Erin and Paige have read it.
Yes. They've at least both read chapter 10. Erin's read the whole thing, definitely, but I'm pretty sure
I think Paige had finished.
I'm pretty sure Paige has finished, but she's definitely read the chapter 10 because she wrote in the chapter 10 section like something like, oh my god, what? Like, I can't remember what. Let me find.
Which was pretty much what we all did.
Yeah.
Oh no, we've lost Lana.
Oh no. Yeah. Ho lordy, well, hot diggity damn. That was Paige's comment.
That pretty much sums it up, Paige.
Yeah. And she has finished, yes. So hopefully Lana will be able to come back. But yes, let's talk about chapter 10.
Yeah.
And how it blew our minds.
Like I said, like I honestly like, especially when you were like, oh, like tell me when you get to chapter 10, I was being like, okay, what could possibly happen in this chapter? Like as I was getting closer and closer to it, I was like, okay, like is Jackie gonna die and this whole thing is gonna be something else? I can't remember what any of my other theories were, but that was not.
It was
what I was expecting.
Well, I had not had anyone say, and like, because I think I don't know. I don't remember.
People who read it before you were Jane and Marlene.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and so I had no like
warning.
So, but then when I got there, I was like, oh my god, I need to talk to someone about this right now. And Rowan was in the middle of a meeting, so if he had been not in the middle of a meeting, I would have just been like, blah, at him, and he would have been like, what the hell are you? What?
Yeah.
Completely out of context. I must blah at you about this book. So yeah, impressions of chapter 10. How did everyone feel when they finally figured out what was actually going on?
I feel like my 3 lines of emojis were pretty expressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much summed up. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the mention.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I finished it and finished the chapter, closed the book, and was just like,
yeah, that's pretty much what happened to me.
I just sat there like, what has happened?
What am I even?
Yeah.
As chapter 10 starts out with, I feel like, look at me, I'm a uni student. Chapter 10 starts out with an excerpt from from the Herald Sun, and even reading this when he's talking about
it took so long for the penny to drop for me.
Me too. I'm reading this and
I'm looking back and I'm like, wow.
Having never left our planet and all this stuff, and it still didn't click in. Even when he's talking about galaxies, still didn't click in. And then then it goes through, and then when they start actually describe, it's not until she starts really describing what this settler actually looks like, and the whole amphibian porous skin, that I'm like, wait, oh, this is actually a book about aliens. Hang on. Oh, it just took so long for the penny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, how was I so stupid?
And then as well, like even once it did, I was like, there's no way that that's right. Like I've read that totally wrong. Like I've just imagined this whole thing and I'm going to send Mel a message and she's going to be like, what the hell, Ellie?
What is wrong with you?
Like, what are you talking about? So I had to like reread it a few times and be like, okay.
Yeah. So that's where we're going. All right. See, okay, so Erin just said, well, I felt pretty it was aliens before the confirmation in chapter 10, especially the last line in chapter 9. So now I feel like I need to go back and read the last line in chapter 9 because I still didn't get it. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. These grey fellas, they don't much like the hot and the dry. They like it less even than the white fella do. So that was the line where I was like, okay, something's weird is happening. That's a strange. But I hadn't gotten on to aliens yet.
No. I didn't quite make that jump.
I didn't jump that way at all. And like I just said, like even reading the news extracts with he's going on about.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that line. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Whatever, okay.
Gravy. That makes sense.
I think at that with the news excerpt, I was just like, wait a second, and then I just sort of just put that on the like, please hold, and then kept reading, and then I was just like, yes, okay, it all makes sense.
Yeah. So the ending. I mean, there's just so much, isn't there? Like, do we want to skip from chapter 10 to the ending, or do we want? Is there other things? There's so many things. Thoughts?
I kind of struggled with the like second half, I guess.
Okay.
I don't really like sci-fi.
Fair enough.
I really struggle with it because I'm just not, I can't wrap my head around it. Like I still struggle with fantasy sometimes where I will understand like 40% of what's actually happening. So for me, like some of it, it went straight over my head. Like I'd just be like, I'm just gonna sit here and focus on the characters and less so on trying to understand kind of the actual world sort of that we're in. Like I remember there's that, can't even remember if it's a section or a chapter about Johnny Starr on his own planet. And like I can't even remember what the word that was used was, but the like river system sort of thing that he's like swimming through. Like that felt like a bit of like a fever dream of like I've imagined this whole chapter.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean, and especially with a book like this where it is such a big jump from like this could be historical fiction, but there's something a bit strange, but to like, no, hang on, this is straight out sci-fi. What? Yeah, it was a little bit like definitely kind of put you on a like.
Yeah, it really like spins around.
Yeah, it made me feel really awesome.
Yeah, but I liked that it was. Oh, go back.
I was just going to say, I think that was done very deliberately.
Yeah.
And that it was, I liked it. I remember thinking, I should have written it down. I remember thinking this reminds me of blah when I was reading it, but done better. And I liked that it wasn't like it just, to start off with, it seemed like an alternate reality. Here we go. And then it was full sci-fi, but it wasn't hard sci-fi. it was still within like my realm of understanding. Like I didn't have to know all of the tech, sci-fi, space buzzwords to be able to, for me to get on like into it. But I don't mind sci-fi if it's like fantasy sci-fi or like this I can do. It's just like hard sci-fi that I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I feel dumb. I'm gonna read something else.
Yeah, I'm the same. I usually find really scientific sci-fi. I'm just like, I've got no idea what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, when it's kind of like this one where it's like mostly takes place in our world and you could be reading about alternate history instead of sci-fi. Yeah. But I definitely can see why you would have found it that way. And I think like, it's done very deliberately to kind of keep you off balance. But I just thought like, even when they do start talking, like very clearly they're talking about another species, from another planet, blah blah. Even then, like they're talking about Johnny Starr is talking about the way that the settlers try to change the land and they try to build their own roads.
Yeah.
And even that was like, again, could have been talking about history.
Yeah, I really like that sort of like, even when it was obvious that it was aliens now, that it still used a lot of the same language. You could be like, if you, for a second you kind of forgot that it was aliens, it's just like, okay, well, this is stuff that happened, or this is stuff that feasibly could happen. Things have gone a little differently, or
especially with the politics of the settlers. So like slavery is not a thing, even though it's happening. Slavery is not a thing, and there was a whole inquiry into it, and like the corruption and all of that. I was just like, this, like, for not a first contact because they're already there, but for like an alien invasion kind of book, it was the most realistic I've read in so long, because I was like, this could literally be our history. Like any country, like, or culture that's been colonized by anyone could say the same thing. And it just blew my mind. I was just like, wow. And I think that, like, in my head, I was like, if aliens were going to take over and they were like a smarter being than us, I think that is exactly what would happen. And I just found that so fascinating. So I was into this book as much for the politics and the how all that worked, and the whole church thing sort of interested me as well, like kind of fascinated me. But I don't know if they explained, maybe I just blurred over it, but like I didn't really understand how their church worked. Or was it just very similar to ours? They're just different. I don't know. I didn't care about that, and I hated the Mother Superior. She could just wanted to punch her in the throat the whole time.
I didn't think that like was really that important, like how the church ran, but I think it was like just for the sake of kind of allegory, I guess. Because it was very, like very much what would happen. Like, oh, well, we'll just go to the colonies, and like it's not slavery because technically this or that loophole, but clearly it is. But it was just, there was so much, and you could really tell that it was an Indigenous person who's, maybe not them personally, but that has their people have gone through that. That was writing it. Like, I don't think that a white person.
Yeah, he really has that distinctive voice.
Yeah,
and
even down
really
to
feel like the pain and everything in it, I think.
And even down to the connection with the land, like even though they were talking about that from like Esperance, and then you later on realize that Esperance and most of those people are not Australian Aboriginal people. And then there's no actual, like, they don't it's never actually said what about Jackie, whether he's Indigenous or what his background is, but yeah, you get the real sense that, like, this is a lived experience, or at least a cultural, generational experience.
Yeah. Even things that I think, well, I don't know, but I think someone who wasn't Indigenous wouldn't necessarily think of like small little things, and that's just out of like ignorance, because that's the way that we're raised. Like the stuff that she hit on, I was just like, oh, because when I first started, like especially with her name, I was just like, I figured because it was you guys that picked the book, I was like, definitely own voices, but I was just like, if I didn't know that, I would have picked it up just by the way that it was written.
Yeah, definitely. We're all stunned. We're all like,
yeah, I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, this was written really good.
So many apocalyptic and invasion stories in Japanese media. Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, let us know. Make a suggestion in the suggestion.
Yeah.
When I was in Vietnam, like 12 years ago now, good Lord, I went to they call it the American War. And I went to the American War Museum, and like, even not being American, but like being Western and whatnot, like you just grow up with a certain rhetoric around what happened and what was going on, and then to go to the other side of the conflict, it was just like, it was so so mind blowing, because I was like, of course they have a totally different perspective on what happened. Of course, America was the aggressor. Like, it makes perfect sense, but because you just are so taught a certain way of thinking, that just absolutely, blew my mind. In a similar way to this book blowing my mind. Going back to what you were saying at the beginning, Lana, about you're not from Australia, and so you didn't grow up learning this history. The really shitty thing is, neither did we.
Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? Is that, like, I mean, we're from two completely different generations, and still, I'm sorry, but we are. And like, even then, it's like what you learned was probably about the same as what I would have learned.
Yeah.
It just hasn't really, maybe it's changed a little now, but I don't, who's to say it has?
I mean, it's changed a little, but it very much depends on the school that you're at, and the the teachers. Yeah. So this year, the principal at the school I work at is Indigenous, so she is very much trying to have a lot more Indigenous history, and not just history, but like anything, a lot more education around Indigenousness, I guess. So she's like put up posters for like how to say different things in the local language and different things like that, but like nothing like that happened the year before, because it was a different principal. And just even that, like, I mean, there's NAIDOC week, there's all like, there is things, but it's like, for 1 week.
1 week.
It's not enough.
And then it's almost nothing is said for the rest of the, like, I even see that in that sort of thing will happen, like in my degree, where we'll have like maybe 1 week where we look at artists that are from different minority groups, you know, and sometimes that minority group is just straight up women, you know, where it'll just be that you get 1 week of like, oh, and these are the non-straight white men, and here's what they were doing.
Yeah, so if your like minority group is women, but everything else is straight white men,
white men, like
yeah,
you don't hear from so many voices.
So the women are probably just straight white women.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
like,
straight white women, and it's just like, wow, but what was like,
you
know, what else was happening? There are other people that would have been in this same, you know, same movement or same artistic style, and maybe, you know, they're not the ones with shows at the NGV, but that doesn't mean they didn't exist.
And if we don't talk about them in our art schools, then they'll never get those.
Yeah,
they'll never. Yeah. Well, I'm like so.
I feel like. Sorry, I'm on a mad delay.
Oh, you've frozen.
Let me know when I'm not frozen. Am I normal again?
I think so. It's hard to tell because you're actually sitting very still. But yeah, you're still pretty like.
yeah.
Dang it! I'll try and go back out and come back in. Oh, okay. I'll keep talking. What was I saying? Oh yeah, in some primary schools, like around here, it's very like let's tick a box to say that we've done that, and it's just infuriating for me. I'm just like, you didn't touch on barely anything. It's just the box ticking is just as infuriating as if they didn't do it at all sometimes.
Yeah. And it's like, it's all like romanticized as well. Like, let's talk about, you know, the housing that like.
Let's talk about how great Captain Cook was, and it's like we're still pushing that. Like,
yeah.
That's the narrative you want to go with?
Yeah, right.
But even when they talk about something that is actually Indigenous, it's like they don't talk about Indigenous like they don't talk about anything current. They don't talk about culture now. They don't. It's all about
even then, when they're talking about that, they're not using like actual voices.
Oh,
they're still using the voices of white people.
Yeah, it's all
still
like
just like, oh, you know, it wasn't so. It was bad, but his white was bad from this white guy that was just watching it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that like a book like this should be on the curriculum. I mean, obviously for high school, but like,
and not just for NAIDOC week,
and not just not just for NAIDOC. And like, I'm really like, I'm trying to make a point of trying to read more BIPOC authors in general, but also Australian Aboriginal authors. But like, you know, like even Australian authors in general, like even someone like Trent Dalton, like outside of Australia.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, like when I can't remember who it was, but someone made a video talking about I think they were opening up a fairy loot, and it was the one with Lynette Noni, one of her books in it. And they're like, oh, this is their debut. Like, fair enough, they didn't know, but they're like, this is her debut. And I'm like, it's not her, I'm sorry. I think I've like, it's not a debut, sorry.
Yeah.
It's just like that, like, how is an Indigenous voice from anywhere, like it's not just to Australia, but from anywhere supposed to get any kind of traction when like
they barely get any traction here.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
They barely get traction here, but like even like Leanne Moriarty and like
Yeah.
Trent Dalton don't barely get any traction outside of Australia. It's just
Yeah.
depressing.
Mm.
Yeah, look at their quaint culture. Yeah, and now we all live happily ever after.
Yeah, that's very much the narrative that's pushed of like, it's all good now and nothing bad happens anymore.
But at least there are, like, here, there is evidence of the stolen generation.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have that in New Zealand. So everyone literally does think that we, like, signed a treaty and it benefited everyone and we all live together in harmony. Like, just because basic te reo is taught in primary school doesn't make, like, I think you get 1 hour a week where they teach te reo, like basic te reo. And, like, the narrative very much is that last sentence. Like, now we live here happily ever after, and, like, the end, nothing else. That is the narrative that's been pushed. The amount of research I had to do to find out about my own culture and how, like, we were colonized and the reality of that, and stuff that you have to dig very deep for because it just gets pushed down. Or if any questions are raised by certain media groups, bigger media groups come along and, like, squash that story and say, oh, that's fake. I'm like, don't think so because of blah, 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 and, like, show receipts. But it's ridiculous how many, like, things have been smoothed over and, like, group burial, like, dumps have just been, like, swashed over and be like, no, that's not sacred ground. We need to put a road here. Like, it is insane. I was just like, because I grew up thinking that, oh, New Zealand's not like other countries, and it's, like, not bad like Australia because we don't have a stolen generation. We just have next to no one that can speak our own language or knows, like, as much of our culture as we should. But, like, it's insane. So yeah, like, when I came here I was like, I need to learn more about, like, the indigenous culture here. It's been crazy.
Yes, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's like, unfortunately,
because you look at sort of the sort of US history of you know, the Native Americans and things like that, and they're like, and we're like, oh, we were not that bad though, like we're not like America, you know. And it's like, no, we're, you know,
like,
we didn't steal people from another country and bring them to a completely different country and slave them, so we're not as bad as them.
We're not as bad as the people that did, like, so we're better at hiding it, like,
that's it, is like we're better at, like, suppressing everything, you know,
like, when I
out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And, like, even talking about you guys knowing that, you know, there's this, like, Australia had a stolen generation and whatnot, like, that, even that, people, when I started at uni, and I did an Aboriginal studies class, and one of the lecturers was saying that she was taken, and I was blown away by that because I genuinely didn't think that it had happened for, like, 50 years. So, you know, it's like, and I mean, that's only 20 years ago. So,
I'm just reading this comment.
It's that bad. Don't look at the mask. Exactly.
That's what it is, though. It's like, look at these 5 First Nations people that we have selected as being the good ones. You know, like, here's Kathy Freeman, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I was So in the corridors they've put up at school, they've put up a bunch of things from NAIDOC that the kids do during NAIDOC week. And one of them is, I can't remember which class it is, but I think it was one of the grade 3-4 classes did some research into like famous Aboriginal Australian people, and they're all old as well. Like they're all like people like Ernie Dingo, and it's like,
Yeah.
like there's lots of people there's lots of contemporary. Why are you having to go that far back?
Hi, Kitty.
Pistachio.
Yeah, that's like, I even think of like there's like Miranda Tapsell, who is an actress. Did like Top End Wedding. Like,
Yep.
I think she wrote, directed it, and starred in it. And you know, has like a podcast and has a book and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, you know, there's someone that like younger kids could relate to. It's not someone that's like 70 years old now. You know, like,
yeah. It's it's very depressing. But I mean, like, for me personally, like in a way, it's very easy to say that, but like I unfortunately very much still benefit from it. Like, and even that's just something that I'm like, how do I don't know how to.
How do you like wrestle with that?
Yeah.
Of like, you know, what do you do?
Yeah. How do I try to make myself a better person whilst still benefiting from being not living in a better world?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which even saying that now I'm feeling like, oh God, now you're even like, oh, woe is me. I don't know how to, like, even saying that, is that like.
I feel like it's designed that way though.
Yeah.
Like the world is designed that way. So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah. Pistachio says you patch the kitchen. Everything is okay, Mum. Just So there's one cat curled up on one end of the couch, the other cat curled up on the other end of the couch, and then the other cat just wandering around.
Well, you can't see him because of his blanket, but it's still there.
I think Miko is under Atlantis's bed, and we're pretty sure that our crazy neighbor has stolen Melvin.
Oh.
Yeah. We haven't seen him for 5 days. And I've gone over to her house a couple of times, but she's locked her gate to get into her house and knock on her door. So like, if he's not back by Wednesday, I'm jumping the fence and I'm looking in every window of her house. I want my cat back.
Oh God, poor thing.
As well, what can you do? Because she's moving soon, so we reckon that she's like kept him inside and maybe given him to her friend to take to his house until she moves, so she can have him. So anywho, I just derailed the whole conversation, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we were kind of wrapping up anyway.
Yeah.
Although I just wanted to say that the ending was another thing that kind of like blew my mind, but also really depressed me. It was like, God, talk about history repeating. Holy hell. Maybe we'll just use this giant desert land as a penal colony. What?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just like, really? But then, and it also kind of cracked me up because in Home, which is a kids movie, all of the aliens move all of the humans to Australia. All of the humans are put in Australia in like these little they're like massive circles, but they're in like set communities in Australia. And I was just like, why did they do that? And now after
know?
reading this, I'm like, because they can't survive in Australia, that's why, so they just chuck all of the humans in
Yeah,
Australia.
they're like, it'll be fine.
Yeah. It's like Mars, so we'll just chuck all of the humans
Yeah.
there who seem to know how to deal. But I was just
Yeah.
like, that is super interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. I
So
mean,
as
I
far
feel
as
like
the alien invasion goes, I think we're like pretty sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I
Although
always kind of felt like in movies they never mention Australia, so it's like the aliens probably didn't even make it here. Like we're all just sitting here like, why is everyone being so quiet?
what's going on? I haven't heard anything about the American president for ages.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
Yeah.
I live on the other side of the world, but I still hear about
Yeah.
him all the time.
It's just us like talking to New Zealand, being like, "You guys good? Yeah,
we're
cool."
Good.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
heard
Rowan
anything?
was watching a movie before, which was like this heist movie, but in the background of the heist movie, there was like this zombie apocalypse, but it wasn't the point of the story. It was just going on, and then these people were running around like breaking into bank vaults and shit, and then like every now and then there'd be a news story about it, and then in the zombie apocalypse. Like,
Oh my
what
gosh.
is happening?
Yeah,
It was very strange, but he seemed to enjoy it, so you know that's the main
that's
thing.
good.
Yeah. Well, it's just after 10, and I'm not sure who is there, but I feel like Erin and Paige, if they're still around, are probably about ready to fall asleep.
Yeah,
So
they've
maybe
had a big weekend.
they've had a big
Oh,
weekend.
yeah.
So maybe now is a good time to wrap up the conversation.
Yep.
But yes, I am very keen to read more of Claire. Yeah, sorry, I screwed up. Yeah, that's okay.
I love you.
You needed one. Yeah, I'm very keen to read more of her stuff. As I said before, I've got Enclave or Enclave or however you say the word, but whatever is
February read.
February? Anyone? Fair enough. Well, good luck, Paige. Go to bed, I think.
Yeah. Self-care.
But yeah, people should comment in our thingy, Discord even, and tell us what they want to read. But I'm definitely keen to read more of the.
Yeah. Or we'll even organize like a little mini body read group if we don't get to pick it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, we might say good night for now, and thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Bye.